Welcome to this week's episode of Your Stock Request for the 21st of August. Hi, I'm Michael Gable, Managing Director at Fairmont Equities. Your Stock Request is the weekly video where I take your requests and analyse the share price charts. So this week we have Lynas, WAM Capital, CSL, Baby Bunting and Perseus Mining. So if you have a request, please send it through. Make sure you've signed up to the free newsletter, but our best recommendations come out on Tuesday in the Dynamic Investor Report. So make sure you're getting that report. But if you do enjoy these videos, I'd love you to share them on social media or even leave us a review. Our main business is in portfolio management, so if you'd like my personal help in managing your portfolio, please call me, and the advice here is general only. So we've got the weekly chart here of Lynas. So this is one that we've been bullish on since end of last year in the Dynamic Investor. Quite simply, you've had this consolidation and the breakout. So the breakout, the retest, and then it's continued higher. So obviously having a massive run recently. If we move to the daily, sort of what's interesting is, I'll zoom out. So that was the old high, the 2022 high. It sort of ran sharply into that and didn't even slow down. It gapped above it and then just kept going. So obviously very strong, very bullish. It is hard to buy something that's running this hard, but I'd basically be looking to buy it on a dip, a couple of days down. You'd have to run a trailing stop. I mean, something that goes up sharply could potentially come back down just as sharply, but maybe this is still just the beginning of the sharp move, and buy the dip, run a tight trailing stop. For example, if we move to say a log chart, let's switch back to the weekly, we could see that to put it in perspective, percentage-wise, that's the move, and this is what it's done, in the last major run. So it could still just be at the beginning of the move. So I'd be looking to, buy it on a dip. Okay, WAM. So this is a weekly chart, 5 years. So obviously a massive underperformer. It's still back near the COVID lows. Even with the dividends over time, better opportunities elsewhere. But in terms of the last couple of years, bit range bound. So it looks like around here's the top of the range. There's the lower end. So it's at the top of the range now. So I'd say based on its performance, the way it's trading, I'd be treating it as a sell up at these levels. And for the chart to be positive, it really needs to clear these peaks. So if it could really sort of break out to the upside, it starts to look positive. But until it can do that, you sort of sell these rallies. CSL, so one that we've looked at before, so we could see that obviously had a great run a while ago, but the past 5 years has been very much range bound. So very clear range there. So at the moment, CSL's fallen right back to the bottom of the range, slightly undercut it and has bounced. Could be a false break, but I think ultimately, you'd be looking for support here. And if we have a look at the low from this year, the previous low, the 2025 low, I think that's obviously it was a support level. So given what's happened in the last couple of days, if it could quickly rip above that line, which is around $230, then that would be a buy signal. So at the moment, you'd be looking at a bounce off the lower end of the range. Baby Bunting, so big pullback here, and we could see this sort of sideways, very clear range, and obviously a very clear breakout last week on this weekly chart. So big move, big volume. So that looks, that would have been the buy signal as soon as it broke above that sort of $2 level. This is what it looks like on the daily chart. So sort of massive gap up, closed on its highs. So very bullish. It has sort of eased back, so it is hard to chase these things again. But I'd have it as definitely as a hold. And now that it's given back a little bit, you could start to maybe buy in and run a tight stop. I think given the way it's behaved, I don't think it's going to come all the way back down here. You wouldn't want to see it do that. So yeah, looking good. And obviously if we go back to the weekly chart, we could see that, longer term, that's a good breakout, and you might end up with a multi-month rally. Okay, finally Perseus. So sort of just looking at the daily chart, basically it all sort of really started sort of beginning of last year, started to get that nice trend going. Looking a bit closer, so we had this pullback here, came back to, I think that's sort of the last major low. You got the higher highs, and therefore that's the low before it made that high. So it's bounced off that, but now it just seems to be trading sideways just under the July high. So it looks like it's setting up for a move. I'd say if it, if it finishes this consolidation and pops above that July high, I'd treat that as a buying opportunity. Okay, well that's all for this week. So if you have a request, send it through, and I'll try to cover it next Thursday.